Okay, hello everyone. Hoping to record the replays from an entire league today. What happened was I was playing around with this transformational sideboard idea and I accidentally queued up with it. So the differences in this build are I wanted to play main deck Harbinger of the Seas, so I cut some of the flex cards, which is the one of Commandeer is gone, and then I cut a Pact, Flare. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what the other cut was. One of the Tameshis. Which is fine. What I don't recommend is don't do this. I was playing around with the idea of putting the Thassa's Oracle Win in the sideboard. If you're not familiar, if someone mills your whole deck, for instance, with a Mind Grind, Jack-o'-lantern allows you to pay 1 mana to get 1 mana of any graveyard, or any color, by exiling it from your graveyard, the second ability there. And then Memory's Journey just costs 1 green with flashback to shuffle cards, so it's instant speed. So on your upkeep, you just need 3 lands in play. 1 exiles a Jack-o'-lantern to make a green mana. The green mana casts Memory's Journey, and then you shuffle Thassa's Oracle back into your deck. It's the only card in your deck. You draw it, cast it, and win. So you need 3 mana, 1 for Lantern into Memory, and then 2 to cast Oracle, and you win. The problem is I have no way to mill my own deck in this list. So this only works if the opponent has sideboarded in an Undercity Informer or Mind Grind or similar effect. So I don't advise doing this. This is kind of a waste of 3 sideboard slots. Otherwise, I have 2 more Harbingers here. Got the Spell Stairs, Disputes, Force, Commandeer, 3 Unable to Screams, which isn't too bad. I cut Consigns. But otherwise, the deck is still good, and the league ended up going well. I didn't realize I had submitted this list until partway through the first game, which you'll see here. We're doing a replay, but I didn't watch it again before recording, and I don't remember everything that happened, so I'm kind of still experiencing it live, so to speak. We went ahead and kept... What do we keep? Kept 3 lands. 3 creatures and a whir. Obviously, we're setting up for hopefully a whir for Belcher. Three creatures is both. The one downside is I have no untapped land, so this is a close keep. I think I kept because I was on the draw. Because I really want to turn 2 one of these, and if I'm not casting one of these till turn 3, it's a pretty slow hand. But at the same time, the Thunderclap Trainers and Archaeologists are good blockers. So I probably kept with this idea of like, well, against any creature deck, I can buy myself quite a few turns here. Drew another creature, of course, so not the best draw. Should probably just skip the whole turn for these early turns. Our opponent got a Meticulous Archive and put a Teferi in the bin, so that's an interesting one. Obviously can't do anything this turn, so we'll just go through it real quick. They're holding up Counterspell mana. I'm like, well, if there's a game to have like a slow, grindy hand, obviously a Counterspell deck is one to have it. We just keep drawing our creatures. I got a full house here. Can't do anything else, so we'll just skip. Opponent does nothing else. See what else they do on their turn. You see I just passed. They missed their land drop. So obviously the only reason they put this under is because they needed a third land. This is one thing that's good for us. We should be able to start hitting our land drops now by chaining our spells. I assume that my first spell is going to get countered here. So I think, I still let off on a Thunder Trap, sorry. He gets countered, no surprises there. Our opponent gets their 3rd mana, they cast Narset, and they revealed the 1 ring. Oh, that's the thing, they revealed Gahira, that's right. So going back to turn 1, I misunderstood what was revealed. I just saw whatever was revealed, and I thought it was Gigantha. And I was like, oh, I'll keep 3 blockers against Gigantha and a Bayeen Veil, right? Like I was like, I could probably dig for other lands and use the Veil and use 2 Thunder Traps and an Archaeologist to stay alive. That was my thought. Still, it was Kahira, and it wasn't me paying. Something like in paper I wouldn't have made that mistake, but online I did. Flare's a great draw if we can go ahead and land something here. I think we go for the other Thunder Trap because we assume this one will resolve. Interesting reveal here. I think it's probably right to take the Flare over a Pact. Oh no, I took Pact. Huh. I wonder why I took that over Flare. I guess I have to land another creature for the second flare, and I already had one, so maybe I took Pact thinking that it's better for protecting my win. I'm trying to win in one turn. Now that I think about it, it's probably not a bad choice. They Solitude our Thundertrap, and they got rid of a Supreme Verdict. They obviously know that I don't play a lot of creatures, so I think they were just trying to get value out of the cards in their hand here. Took the Pact. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I'm just trying to resolve one spell. They're playing Bant with the suppression, right? They probably have some way to make energy. So we untap here. We don't have our 5th land currently, which means Pact is kind of offline, so to speak. Draw the Bloom. I go ahead and cast an Archaeologist because I want to turn on this Flare because our Pact isn't really active. I could have tried to jam a Whir. So here I can grab another Bloom or the land. I think I go ahead and draw our 5th land here, put that into play, even though it's kind of would be nice to use as a, oh, smart. Cast the second one. Get that sync. Yep. It's kind of weird watching myself play, being like, get that one, get that one. Obviously hold the sync because we might want to use that as a counterspell at some point. I believe here's where they try to jam a Days Undoing. I was like, ho, let's not do that. So I wonder if it's going to be that this would be better as a flare, because that might have been a mistake I made. One thing is I don't pretend to know everything and make no mistakes. I think sometimes people who record things or stream things act like they're infallible and always defend their play to the death. No, this is correct because blah, 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 blah. And it's well, I might have just not made the actual optimal play. I have 3, 4, 5. I could have 6 mana, but I'm not at 7 yet. So I assume I just want to set up for a 7 mana Whir on their end of turn to try to get a Belcher with Whir. We've been flipping quite a few creatures, so this I probably take the other sync. Yep. And then we play out the Seagate. No real reason to leave this open. We have 3 mana to cast one of these. Our Pact is now live. And now next turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can do our Whir for 4. Well, X is 4, rather. Opponent for trying to figure out their mana. Teferi. Believe we will stupor that. Because that ruins our Whir plan. We're also 1 turn away from Bloom. And then I draw this. And I remember literally in the game I was like, what? Am I playing? Oh no, I'm playing this version. I didn't know until this moment that I was playing that. So I go ahead and I think we jam it. All their lands are now they can't cast that Teferi. Which ends up coming up long term. I know that they have it in their hand. I go over to Narset. I let it resolve because I'm not really worried about them drawing non-lands at this point. The force means obviously I gotta be careful of that. Now I think here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I forget exactly what happens here. Because I think this turn I had, not a great draw. I had the option of playing out the sync and trying to do this for X is 4 and then Bloom to activate. But with 2 mana, I know he has a Force and a Teferi. I'm trying to figure out a way to Whir with sync backing it up and Pact. So if I play the sync, I only have Pact. I could Pact that Force negation, but if he has Counterspell, then I'm just dead. Not dead, but I have nothing. I think now looking back, I should have gone for it this turn. I believe I don't. Yeah. And I just start hitting him with the Harbinger after I put this to 1. I think the next turn I start hitting him. And I think it probably would have been correct to go there, but it's hard because it's you already know they have 1 free counterspell and they have a Teferi to pitch to it that they can't cast. At the same time, letting them just sit there and have open mana, they're gonna. And then here they go for the ring, and I'm like, oh great. He can't force me now, and he has to have exactly counterspell, and then I can pack the counterspell. So I go ahead, and the problem is I have to use the Lotus Bloom. And so it's I should have played out the sync. I don't know. I went back and forth on it. I mean, obviously plays Solitude, so he has ways to remove this. He did have a counterspell. I go ahead and packed it. We get our Belcher. Pass the turn. The problem is we can't. This is a little awkward because I can't just kill him. Usually, in response to this pack trigger, I would just kill him, but he has protection from the ring, and so I have to like spend a whole turn hoping he doesn't have some way to like bounce or interact with Belcher because I have to pay this and pass the turn. I play out the Veil, but it doesn't really do anything, and I can just swing. I can't hit him anyway, so I might as well just remove the Narset. And then he gets to draw extra cards, and I'm like, I don't know that he has an out to this. And what did he do here? He casts another one, and I'm like, great. That's great. Now I have to wait a whole nother turn. And then I kill him. He draws some cards in response, and he's dead. Cool. And then we go to sideboard. And again, I'm trying to not show you the details so you don't see who wins what or whatever. But this is one downside of doing replays. I took out 2 Belchers, 2 Blooms, and a Tameshi. And I brought in basically all the counter magic. I have the snares, and what did I have? A Commandeer before. I didn't bring in the portable hole. I obviously didn't bring in my memories package because it's kind of useless. I kept my 7. I'll organize it. It's weird that it like doesn't replay what I did with my hand because I always organize it in the game. I think I kept on the back of like Harbinger and Thunderclap to smooth it out, some decent lands. I don't have any counter magic in my hand, but obviously I'm playing a lot of it. And we draw one there, which is great. I don't think we're countering any 2-drops here. Oh, sorry. I clicked it too many times. Okay, we'll fast forward there. Real quick, what happened is he cycled this, but I tried to cast Thunderclap, and he Mystical Disputed it, and obviously I could have shouldered it, but I was like, I'm going to let Dispute resolve because I want to do my Harbinger. Now, he did get a plane, so like I'm like, okay, my Harbinger isn't going to be as good, but it's really cool because you'll see what happens here is he puts Kahira in his hand, which tells me a couple things. One, I don't know why he went and got a basic island. I think he like forgot and thought that this was Blood Moon essentially. I don't know that he had another. He couldn't go get a basic plains anyways, but he puts Kahira in his hand, and I'm like, that's such an odd play, which tells me like he doesn't have counterspell. He's not worried about trying to consign something this turn. Blah blah blah. Like I don't think he had this on his radar, or he just didn't have an answer to it. And I'm like, well, maybe he put Kahira in his hand because he has a Solitude. And in that case, I'm like, maybe I should have kept Suppressed Ray because I could shoal the Ray on Solitude. So looking back, I think it would have been correct to put Jawari down instead of Orderly Plaza and kept this in my hand because of this card and because of Solitude. But we get to jam Harbinger here. And I do think we end up having to protect it at some point. But it's kind of cool because even though they have a plains, they don't have. Later in the game, they end up discarding a Prismatic Ending that they were holding, and I was like, what? They must have put that in for Lotus Bloom. But at this point, we're just on a defend the castle, so to speak. Like, as long as this is in play, we're winning. It's a slow clock, but it is a clock. And often against, counterspell heavy decks, the best thing you can do is just have a threat in play. A long game is fine when we're just, both of our hands are full of counter magic, because you can only use so much counter magic in a turn. Do I have to click OK when I'm playing the replay? What's going on here? Come on, Magic. There we go. It's catching up. And I assume he actually sideboarded out his Solitude, so I'm mostly worried about a Teferi landing. And now I'm in a place where like I have Pact plus double Shoal, and I can like hard cast a Shoal on something if I wanted to, with a Shoal protecting it. Obviously, I can flare in a pinch, but once I flare, like, what's the point? Like, I'm, trying to defend the Harbinger. But I'm just looking, I'm like, okay. I mean, it's a 7-turn clock, which is very slow, but he has to draw removal. And I'm like, what does he have that's removal? Another Shoal. Awesome. So I played out these sinks because I kept drawing Shoals. At this point, I'm not, and I'm also like trying to set up if he does kill this and I fight over it, then it might leave me a window open where I get to just whir on the following turn, because now I'm 1 mana short, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of whirring for Belcher. And obviously we get to play those without bolting ourselves. We did bolt ourselves twice, but so now our opponent discards the hand size, and here's where we get to see a prismatic ending, and I'm like, oh, he can only generate 2 colors because usually his third color would be this, and I don't know that he should have kept this in the deck because I don't think he really cares about removing anything other than maybe our Lotus Blooms, but here's where I'm like, okay, I drew a Harbinger. I'll just go for a second Harbinger because it makes the clock faster. Like right now, this is a 6 turn, or this turn plus 5 more. By putting this in play, it's this turn plus 4 more. Right, I attack for 4. No, this turn plus 3 more. Sorry, so it cuts the clock down by two full turns. And he decides to fight over it, and I'm like, okay, great, counterspell. Let's fight over it, because if we're fighting over this, then we're not. And I just decide to hard cast the flare, even though I could shoal. And then when he goes for another counterspell here, I decide to go all in, and I'm going to shoal my whir away, and he lets it resolve, and I'm like, great. Now I'm feeling really good. Didn't have to use my pact. And our opponent concedes. So, it's kind of fun that I decided to play Harbinger Main, and in our first matchup, got to see it essentially win the game. So we're 1-0 to start the league, even though I'm playing a build that I didn't want to play, so to speak. Going to game 2, match 2. Won the die roll, go first. Ooh, do I end up keeping this? No, only 1 land. We mulligan. This one has 2 lands and a bloom, double flare. It's close. I end up keeping. Okay, that's risky. It's risky because I have to draw another land to like do anything before turn 4. But the upside is if I draw any land before turn 3, I can turn 3 Tameshi, and then turn 4 I get to win because I'll have a bloom coming off and I have the whir in hand. And look at that, like a proper gentleman, draw myself another land. Our opponent got to Commercial District and Archon, so I was like, what is this deck? I'm not super familiar with every deck in Modern, but this was an interesting one. Obviously, any deck trying to put cards in the graveyard, they're going to play Malevolent Rumble. So I see here there are a Glimpse of Tomorrow deck, which is confusing at first, and then like I'm like, what the heck is this Siege? It's essentially like makes a treasure, discard and draw a card for 2 mana, which is pretty good, but it also sieges another land type for the graveyard, so we're obviously trying to do Delirium. We're playing 2-drops, so that tells me they're probably playing, the 2-drop Cascade dude. And they're trying to glimpse into an Archon, is the idea. And so I go ahead and just go for it because I'm trying to win as fast as possible. And Tameshi on turn 4 with Lotus coming in can make 14 mana. So here's where I have a choice. I could flare away my Tameshi in order to not let Glimpse resolve. It means that next turn I will only have 6 mana because of Bloom plus these 3 lands, so I'd have to draw an untapped land to whir for Belcher. So like this is a calculated risk. Their Glimpse is going to resolve for 4 permanents. If any of those permanents are something like Omniscience or Archon, then I'm in a really bad place because my Tameshi dies anyway. If they whiff, I just win the game next turn. I think percentage-wise, I don't know. We could do the actual map. I didn't know the opponent's list by heart or anything. I think percentage-wise, letting them get 4 things out of 43 cards, 46 cards, is pretty good odds that we just win next turn. So I let it resolve. Hindsight doesn't work out for us. They only get 2 permanents. First of all, they can reveal Rumbles, they can reveal other Glimpses. Siege wouldn't have done anything. Other Marauders do nothing. But anyways, he gets the Archon. Obviously, now I have to sack the Tameshi and I lose a card anyway. So, flaring the Tameshi would have been far better for me. I get to see that he's playing Karn, so that's another thing where I didn't know, but if he had quite a few hits in Karn, Archon, Omniscience, you know, like he had 12 hits, that would have been pretty devastating, so I know now that I should have flared it. And these are just the little things that you learn as you play a deck more, as you face more decks in Modern. I'm hoping for an untapped land here. I, of course, do not get the untapped land. So I go ahead and concede. Because this is going to hit for a total of 9 damage, and I lose a card in hand. So, like, I'm going to only have Whir next turn, and then 9 plus 3 is 12 damage. So I was like, oh, I can't even, like, shock myself, and I'm going to Whir and then die before I get to use it. Like, I didn't have any draws right now. I think my only draw was technically Tameshi. Can I actually draw a card in the replay? No. What's this button do? No. I should have drawn a card. I technically should have just passed a turn, see if I draw Tameshi, because if I play Tameshi out, then I can activate it. I can make a bunch of mana and actually Whir and win in the same turn. But I conceded, so I technically had out. So now we go to game 2. Again, now I know what I'm playing against, so that's helpful. Helpful indeed. We're obviously on the play here. So we keep this. This is a weird keep, but I can get there with the Bloom and Tameshi. We're just trying to win. Sorry, one moment in this replay. Kid aggro. Apologies. Obviously, if I actually used editing software, I would have just cut that minute out. Never have a free moment. I drew the land, which is great. I see that they play Omniscience now. I didn't necessarily know that before. They play the Siege. It's a weird thing. They get to discard the Archon. I'm not sure. I think I've seen at this point that they have Shifting Woodland. So that's obviously a big concern. I'm trying to remember why I brought in Portable Hole. Oh, I assumed that they would have some sort of hate that was cheap. But now looking back, it's like I guess it could only be a 2-drop. But if they played something like Disrupting Flute, it's nice to have an answer to it. They go ahead and make a Karn. I go ahead and have to say no. Sacking my Tameshi because we don't really have outs to it once it's resolved. Oh no, I went for Pact. Sorry. Forgot that. So I Bloom on cooldown. Because I have Tameshi, I can make a lot of mana. I don't want to sack him. So you have to be careful. You have to make sure you click negation first, then Bloom, and then let Bloom resolve in order to have enough mana. Obviously, I'm going to leave up the white mana. So now I can make a bunch of mana, but I don't actually have a win con. So I go ahead and I activate Tameshi once because I want to draw an extra card. So this allows me to draw an extra card. I obviously put back the untapped land. I didn't get like a win, so to speak. So I went ahead and went for the Archaeologist, because again, I'm just digging for a win con. Get another land here. I just play a land out. Oh, I already played my land. I just pass the turn. I think. Did I start by playing a land that turn? Maybe I missed a land drop that turn. But anyways, now I have Flare, where I don't have to sack the Tameshi. In an emergency, have a second Flare, and I can still make mana I can play 1, 2, 3, 4, get it back. Yeah, so I can make like 13 mana, I believe. Plays Cash Grab, so he's digging. It looks like he's digging for his Cascade spell because he already has 4 types. I draw my Harbinger. I think I decide to go ahead and activate Tameshi first. Not sure why I bounced that land, but it's interesting because at first I was going to cast the Harbinger, and then I'm like, wait, I should activate Tameshi, and I got my draw here, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're just winning this turn. So that's something to keep in mind. This is a game where the draw effect, which I've said before, like that's not really why we play Tameshi, but it does mean that Tameshi gets you to a win con faster as well as like making all your mana. So you can see my mana over here. I make my Lotus Blue mana, I bounce it, and I just stop once I got to 7 because I could make more, but why? And win the game. So now we're going to a game 3 versus this Glimpse, Cascade, Archon, Omniscience deck. What's gonna happen? Sorry, replay. This replay is just so clunky. Oh, I didn't talk about sideboard, sorry. I took out Shoals, because I had to have Shoal for 0, which only packed negation to hit. Oh no, they don't Cascade for 0, they Cascade for 2, so... Sorry, they Cascade for a 0 cost spell. So to actually counter Glimpse, I'd need Pact. And so it's like, that's too narrow, and I don't actually want to use it to counter their 1s and 2 drops that like mill them and stuff. The one other card I want to really worry about them resolving is a Karn, and I only have like 1 4-drop in the deck. So this is pretty weak. Took those out, brought in whatever else. I maybe could have brought in Memory's Journey to target 3 of their cards to turn off Delirium. I took the hole back out because I realized that game that it was pretty bad. This is a great hand. Not great. It isn't our best hand, but it's a solid 7. Commandeer is some form of interaction. We have 4 lands, one of which is untapped. So we can go for a turn 3 for Lotus and hope for another untapped land, or we can just go to turn 4, Belcher, and turn 3 win, turn 5 win. Obviously, we're going to play the Veils first. I think I can play this untapped turn 2 and hold up Disruption, depending on what they reveal here. So here I see the Shifting Woodland, which I can't really interact with, and then the Karn. He goes ahead and takes the Karn, so now he's going to be able to cast Karn next turn, so I'm like, oh no. And then I realized, hey, he played Karn, and I didn't sideboard out a Belcher. I was supposed to sideboard out a Belcher because I play Commandeer, and he's playing a Karn. So keep that in mind. Again, my own guide says that, and I forgot it. So... whenever you're facing a Karn deck, bring in your Commandeer, sideboard out 1 Belcher. So I think I go ahead and I do steal the Karn here, but then I can't actually go get a Belcher, which is sad, but, you know, we got to do the thing, which is fun. So here I pay 3 because I can go Whir for Lotus, and then next turn I can win. I just plus the Karn to kind of keep it in play because he makes treasure... I said over here to my opponent, I forgot to sideboard out. Because he makes treasure tokens, this would stop that. He gets a Shifting Woodland, but he doesn't have anything in the graveyard that, that matters. Even if he had an Archon, it wouldn't work this turn. He goes for another Karn. I'm like, oh, well, good thing I, didn't cast anything on my turn. I'll just Disruption it. Get use out of that. It still allows me to play this untapped and go for Belcher next turn, which I believe is what I do. I go ahead and minus the Karn and go pick up that Jack-o'-lantern, just because I can. No. What I did here is instead of playing out Belcher, which essentially just gives them a turn to do whatever they want, I got this specifically because if he goes to Shifting Woodland, say somehow discards an Omniscience, I could do this. Because right now if I just cast this and pass the turn, I'm betting on the fact that he doesn't somehow mill an Omniscience with, like, say, Malevolent Rubble, which would still leave him with, if he had a land drop, enough mana, 1, 2, 3, 4, to activate Woodland. So that's what I did. That's actually, Jack-o'-lantern ends up being relevant slightly. I don't think he has any line of play that does that, but I was like, well, just in case. This technically covers all his outs. He could go for a Karn here, I guess, would be another out, but You know, we've already seen 2 of them. He does go for cash grab, and he gets the Archon, but obviously it's way too late and doesn't have enough mana to get it with the Shifting Woodland, and I could just exile it. He has 6 types. He goes for invasion, and I'm like, great, you can't use your treasure token, so now I can just Whir for Bloom and win next turn. So that's what we do. I realized, I can also tap the Jack-o'-lantern for 1 more on my Whir, which is, relevant if I was playing Portable Hole, I guess. And, Karn could just destroy this, but I get to just, we got Tameshi, which also gives us a lot of fun lines, but with Jack-o'-lantern, we could, start exiling a bunch of their cards to bounce our lands or whatever. But, if I didn't have a win con here or whatever, I could have, Tameshi, I could have bounced Jack-o'-lantern to exile the Siege and the Karn and the Archon and put him down to only 3 types in the graveyard. But, anyways, we won. We end up winning in 3. Nice close game there. Going to the 3rd round, that was Lord Beerus. Is Unstable Voodoo. Okay. This hand looks pretty keepable. Obviously, double Belcher's a little clunky, and we kind of have to pick what to value here, but our opponent just makes a Noble, and I'm like, what deck could this be? Teachings is a decent draw. We got a tap land to play out is great. Come on, I've clicked this. I promise I'm clicking. I'm sorry, that is it making me click okay? Why does the replay randomly make me click it? So there is some precedence for actually of countering this Spike Feeder, knowing that there are infinite life combos with it. But my thought was I can just counter that. So whatever they get. So I countered the Fauna Shaman because that's a way for them to just turn all their cards into value. And then I went for the Harbinger here because although they have double Hierarch, it gets them off of some of their color, but I'm not sure that was correct. Looking back, I think they should have actually showed the Spike Feeder early on, but I don't know. It's hard because I don't know what they were going to draw. They could have drawn things that the Spike Feeder was useless, but obviously they get this. Now they can just Fauna Shaman for anything they want. They go ahead and get Heliod, and look at that. They have, first of all, they can cast by spending any mana. A mana as those any color, so Soul Cauldron also makes Harbinger useless. They also had double Hierarch, so I think I should have just held up Jawari Disruption and kept myself at 13 life, and hope to draw a 4th land for this, and then pack to protect it and survive a turn. But if you don't know, the way this works is you remove a counter to gain a life. This puts a counter on when you gain life, so he can just go to infinite life. He has no cards in hand, and I'm not dead, but I'll never be able to kill him with a Belcher when he's at infinite life, so we concede. So now we gotta win 2 games in a row again against another weird combo deck. And it's interesting, I'm not facing any energy decks lately online. I think that they're probably still very popular in paper, but online, not so much. This is a close one. I'm not sold on it being worth it. Again, this deck doesn't mulligan extremely well, but I don't know. Unable to Scream is great. Tameshi's great. Whir's great. I have everything in hand. I just don't have enough lands. I just wish this pack was a land, basically. But let's see what happens. They got a Sprawl. We drew a land. Yay. They get another land. They cast a card. Oh, look, it's Heliod. Okay. I can't unable to Scream it, which is one weakness of the card. So I go and I just do this because I'm going to try to Whir on their end step for a Lotus Bloom, but I'm technically also holding up a Jawari Disruption. Which again, some of the flexibility. I could just jam Tameshi there, but then next turn I could Whir for Lotus and go off, so to speak. But this way of doing it lets me hold up Disruption as well. I go for it here, and then I think he Coco's in response. Which then gives us an interesting option. Is if Coco resolves... If this resolves, he could just go infinite right now. There's nothing I can do about it. He'll just have infinite life, just like that, if it's a spike feeder. If I packed it, then this whir is kind of wasted because on my upkeep I just have to sack the Lotus Bloom for that, and then I don't, I only have one land left, so I can't cast a Tameshi. So I basically just decide like countering it and then wasting this whir and hoping to like survive long enough because I don't even have an untapped land. I'm not gonna be able to Belcher till my turn 5 and then activate it turn 6. Like that is just too slow. I guess I could Tameshi on turn 5, make enough mana, but I was like, I don't want to give him more turns, so I'm just gonna let it resolve. And he got the Basking Brood Scale, which does combo with things, but doesn't combo with just Heliod. So I get to go like this, and we don't draw if we just drew an untapped land, I could just play it and win. So instead, I have to Tameshi. And again, it's important. This has to be sacked for white mana, so you have to tap your lands for Tameshi. You sack it for white. I return the untapped land because now the untapped land can be played again and tapped for mana. But I go ahead and just activate this a few times because now we're at 7 mana. I don't have to keep going. I can just cast the Belcher and activate it. So we win game 2. And again, I played to my outs. I think it was best to let the Coco resolve and just hope he doesn't go infinite. There is a line to victory using Pack there and hoping to survive through a full turn cycle to then cast Tameshi. The other thing was I had no white mana to activate to get the bloom out of the yard with Tameshi. So then it's like it might have actually just been better to jam Belcher, but then I'm passing a whole turn with Belcher out in play where he could interact with it as well. So I just was going through all those iterations in my head, and I think it is correct to go the way we went. So now we're on to game 3. Obviously we're on the draw again. We got this 4-land hand plus bloom, but bloom plus whir with a 2-drop that can dig for some interaction, and our stupors are technically interaction. I think it's a decent keep. Also, it's nice to have untapped lands. So spend that, and we drew. This is like our best land to draw turn 1 because it's like we definitely want to get it out turn 1. It's a white source. I think he has draws where he can just combo next turn, so I really want interaction, but so we're hoping to hit like a flare off of this. So there's flare and there was shoal, and I'm not 100%. Flare is unconditional with this in play, but shoal is more limited. But we had a 2 and a 3 in hand. But I think Flare is the better pick here. And we have 2 blooms going, which means you can really wait to just whir for the win. At this point, we're just trying to survive 3 turns. So we just have to stop combo. That's our game plan now. And starting next turn, I can hold up a sink into stupor plus Flare. I can also. Oh yeah, he swings. We don't want to block because if we block, he can just activate adapt, and then we can't Flare because it would die. So at this point, we're trading our life total for holding up Flare because we just don't want them to combo. We're fine with them hitting us for 3. Important there. A lot of people 2/2 swings. I got a 0/3. I should block, but you got to be careful because essentially this reads sack to cast counterspell, and we can't afford to lose that ability. So a couple options here. What land to play? Let's see what I play. Yeah, I like this play. I think holding up Sync plus Flare is better. We already have 2 Lotus Blooms, so we're not going to waste this whir on Lotus Bloom. But here we go. He's drawing, so he's digging for combo, which we know. His outs here are combo. We're fine taking 3 damage again. We're not dead until we're at 1. We just need them. Oh, do I trade it here? No. I think I misclicked. I don't think I meant to do that. Goes for Ariak Champion, which is not going to kill us, so we're fine with that. And another Brood Scale, also not going to kill us, so we're fine with that. I think I go ahead and bounce something here, which is a weird play. I don't think that was necessary. Just because I was looking, it's like 3/6. He would have hit me for 6 next turn, and I have enough. I need to just survive 1 more turn. I accidentally hit the whole turn here, so we got Thunderclap. Thunderclap drew a Disrupting Shoal. And our 1 bloom resolved. We have a 2nd bloom coming, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. And 10 mana is enough to whir and win. So all we need to do is survive this turn. We have Flare plus Shoal, which I think is great. But I'm not sure it was worth wasting that sink. Or casting that sink. I don't know, it was a full waste. I go ahead and throw this in front of you because, again, now I just need one of these creatures to be alive. So this allows us to like kind of force the adapt, so to speak, to trade, well, to kill this thing, which is fine, and him gaining life is fine because like we're winning next turn. We just need him to not win. I don't remember if he actually ends up casting it. He recast that Boot Scale, yeah, whatever. Make all your dudes gain some life. Pass a turn, awesome. So now we have our win with Flare protection, plus we could Shoal for 2 if we needed to. So there we go. Got there in 3. So we're 3-0 in the league, feeling great. Going into our game match 4. Match 4. What does this keep? We kept 3 lands: Tameshi, Pact, Lotus, and Whir. That's a good one. We'll take that. They play a turn 1 Overgrown Tomb into, what is this? Grist, Voracious Larva. Death Touch 1/2. Whenever it enters from the graveyard, or you cast it from a graveyard, or any other creature, you can pay green, and if you do, you exile it and bring it back as this Planeswalker, which has the create a insect, mill 2, put a death touch counter on it if a black card was milled, or -2 destroy artifact or enchantment. And then for each creature in your graveyard, create a token of it, except it's an insect. So we don't really want it to flip, is the short of it. It's pretty powerful, but he's obviously doing some weird graveyard strategy. But this also has a 1/2 death touch, just basically gets to swing in for 1 damage every turn. Melvin Rumble, of course, heavy graveyard deck. We get to see he's playing Flare of Malice and Bowmasters. I think he just takes a land here, though, because he's trying to get his land drops, yeah. Like, well, now he's got to have 4 mana next turn. Not ideal for us. I think I'll go ahead and hold up, yeah. Or no, we just go for Philagi. I think, so there's some debate for taking the Flare of Denial here, but then, you know, we only have a tapped land as our 3rd land, and I wanted an untapped land so I could Tameshi and or Whir. The double Pact is a little awkward as well. We're still 2 turns away from Bloom. So we're kind of like shields down. If we had taken the Flare, I could have used it this turn. But obviously we wouldn't want to Flare Bloodglast. This is kind of flareable, though. I don't know what they're going. So this is like kind of looking like a weird Yawgmoth sort of deck, but it's a Birthing Ritual deck using this Grist and Bloodghast. It's a very powerful engine. But I do think if I knew exactly what I was playing against, I would have taken that Flare. Of course, now we draw a Flare, you know, the turn after Birthing Ritual hits. I get to go for Tameshi here and then hope that, and then next turn I can win if Tameshi survives. But he obviously can just sack a creature to destroy it. He can just bring back Bloodgrass with the land drop. He swings. I can't block it. I'm down to 11. It's like the one, like this is not worth countering. So it's like I'm not going to counter that. And then he just gets to sack it. He gets to kill my Tameshi, which means now I can't win next turn. And then Ritual, whiffed. Or, I don't think he wants to sack this. So I got my Bloom, and with an untapped land here, I could Whir for Belcher, but of course, I don't hit my untapped land. I hit another tapped land. So we had a couple windows to win this game, but I'm pretty sure I end up losing it. So he creates the insects, mills something. Now he has a Stitcher Supplier, we know as well. He gets his land drop for Bloodghast. They both come back. When they come back, he can now pay green mana and flicker this one, which now allows him to destroy our Lotus Bloom. And again, we're 1 mana off of being able to just sack it and Whir in response. So, you know, feels unfortunate. I decide to go ahead and Whir for another Bloom here. So I think this might be incorrect. I don't know, it's hard. If I don't use this Whir now, I can, you know, I still need, 3 more land drops before I can Whir for Belcher. So my thought was, by doing this, I set myself up for Belcher to be a lethal draw, as well as like another Whir to set me up for like a 1-turn lethal. It's hard. I don't really know that and we're not in a great position either way, because essentially in this matchup, our Pacts, our Flare, Jawari are just like useless. Like it was only useful the turn that he played Birthing Ritual, and that's why I should have taken the Flare early instead of the Springs. But if I did that, we'd only be at 3. I don't know. It goes back and forth. But looking back, obviously, I should have prioritized. I didn't know they were even playing this card, and I thought it was just a Cauldron deck, but it's more of like a value engine deck that uses Birthing Ritual and just the Grist. So now I'm just sitting here where it's like, okay, I'll have lethal soon if I just draw a Belcher, but our opponent kind of is doing their thing, making dudes, whatever. I draw this, which means now I can grab Whir, and then, but I'm like 2 turns away from winning. Is the downside of like it's just too slow. He endurances. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but then I'm like, I didn't realize, but after doing some math, it's like, oh, I'm actually just dead on board. But he goes ahead and makes a bunch more stuff anyways, makes the blood gas come back, and like I'm very much just dead. So, all well. Game 2, and again, this is where it's like my real sideboard wouldn't really be that much better against this deck, but I get to bring in the. I didn't bring in Jack-o'-lantern. Maybe I should have, but. Unable to Screams are kind of clunky because he's sacking his creatures all the time. And that's where it's like an actual removal spell might actually be better to like hit the. So it's like if I put this on Grist, he just the 1-mana one, he just sacks it, and it still can come back as a Planeswalker from the graveyard. The spell snares are awkward because it's like it does hit Birthing Ritual, but I don't really care about Bloodghast. But maybe I bring them in. I took out these packs, brought in the Shoal. I didn't bring in Force. What did I bring in? Oh, I brought in the Portable Hole for sure. Oh, and the Harbinger, because I didn't see a lot of basics. So I kept this hand. I have some blockers here. I have only 2 lands, which is an ideal. I think this is probably not a good keep. I think I should have mulliganed. This is just not a good card in this matchup. Although I have a lot of cards that, counterspells just aren't that great in general. I probably should have sideboarded this house for a Spell Snare. Also, in thinking back, looking back. I at least hit a land here. Then he plays this card, which I did not see in game 1, and like I should have. Now I'm like, oh, I should have brought in my Unable to Screams, because this creature just gets bigger and bigger and is scary, and has vigilance. Because this deck is very good at putting creatures in the graveyard, so it's like a weird graveyard centric deck. I didn't play this matchup optimally, definitely admitting that. I got flares, but he got to resolve his right because I got the flare after he resolved it and the second flare. I went ahead and flared that one, the Bowmasters, but I probably should have flared this, and this turn I think I just missed it. Like I just forgot. But if I flared this is still going to kill me in like 3 turns. But I got the Bloom, and then I go for Tameshi here because it's like I'm close now. I'm close. Obviously, this Bloom's not going to come off for a while, so it's like I'm trying to survive, block the right, whatever. Now he's got that. He can kill land. He can make blood guests for days, and I'm staring down lethal. So it didn't really matter. I could have, flared this and had one more land, but I wouldn't have had lethal anyway. Tameshi had to chump block this, or we'd be at 5. We didn't really have outs, unfortunately. I went and got Portable Hole because that is an answer. It's like maybe I should have done that earlier with the Whir instead of playing out Tameshi. Now that I'm looking back, again, I don't think I played this optimally, and I think I was tired. It's my excuse at least. But just with these blood gas, like I'm dead, and the Grist had a -5, so this didn't even matter. It was too late. But I didn't play that matchup super well. But it's also a weird deck. When you're playing a counterspell based deck, you're typically better against decks that are known because you've kind of built your counterspells to beat those decks, if that makes sense. And that's very true. When you're in mono blue, you can't just beat like wild and crazy decks that come out of nowhere. Okay, here we are in the last matchup. We got some lands. We got a win con. We're keeping Play that out. We draw a pact. Oh, look, they're just some sort of. Oh, look, turn to Oculus. This is very hard to beat. I had a shoal. I had a pact. Pact would have killed me. I can't shoal the unearth. This is where I think that spell stairs become a little worse because now against Dimir, although we want them for frog, they don't hit unearth and they don't hit Oculus, and this thing just kills you so fast. So it's like I had a creature, I have flare, I have whir into Belcher. I was like, let me try. Let me see if I can beat this thing. But like I have to take a hit. I have to hold up flare. I have to go down to 7 here in order to hold up my whir interaction. So it's like then he has push for this, and so then I'm just I got rid of the I sink into stupid the Oculus. So I get that off me for a turn, but then he basically just has lethal in play, and I don't have a turn off to then cast whir into Belcher. I would have been dead if I didn't bounce the Oculus. I'm kind of dead here. I put this out as a blocker, but realize like I'm going to take 2, go to 1. I don't have a line that wins here because I'm not going to survive 2 turns anyway. The Oculus deck is just rough. It's worse than the Dimir Frog. We kind of figured out how to handle the Dimir Frog matchup. The sideboard plan and with forces, spell snares, and whatever. So if you look at my sideboard, I followed our typical plan. I took out the Belcher and Lotus. I took out a Flare and a Tameshi and a couple shoals because again, like we don't have a lot of 1-drops. I have 3-drops, but the unearths are hard to hit, and I probably should have brought in the portable hole. But anyways, I'm bringing my screams because that's a pretty clean answer to the what's it called. So he plays a fetch. Awesome. We play our Lotus Bloom in our land. We're setting up. We got another land. Everything's looking hunky-dory. What's he get here? Oh, he gets the surveil land. What does he surveil? Oh, look, he happens to hit Oculus. Now, this has happened to me. Like, you just saw it happen 2 games in a row. I'm getting a turn 2 Oculus, because I'm pretty sure he just unearthed it right here. Oh, no. It's Frog first. So, again, I can't interact with Frog. If he went for unearth, I would have been able to hit it, so... We got the Lotus Bloom coming off. We got another land. I could have bolted with this to hold up Sync or Hardcast Force or go for Whir. But again, against a counter spell heavy deck, you're kind of setting up for one big turn. And so I think it's fine to take 1 hit off this. But then Thoughtseize makes this really awkward. And I'm like, well, I really wish I just had, done this. Because now you can pay for the Jawari. I think this was incorrect. I don't think I should have cast this. I think I should just let Thoughtseize resolve. But I at least did this, which meant he didn't get to unearth this turn, was what I was thinking. But he doesn't go for unearth, because then I was like, oh wait, he could just play a land. Oh, by the way, not who's there? Colorless Pizza. If you look, he is down 4+ minutes on clock, because he just sat there AFK. Obviously, I'm clicking skip, so we skipped all that. But in real life, this would have been a miserable matchup to watch me stream or record live, because I literally just sat there for 4.5 minutes and still end up losing. Oh look, he has unearth. Oh, I force it. Yay, but it doesn't matter because here's another Psychic Frog. So we've spent our resources, we've traded back and forth. I go for the Belcher, and he has the Force, of course. So then we're dead. Again, could have played it out, but Frog draws a card every turn. So he's drawing 2 a turn to our 1 a turn, and we already lost 1 of our Belchers. We only have 1 more in the deck. We already lost a Whir. We only have 3 more in the deck. The chances of, we're not going to resolve 1, and then he's going to get an Oculus at some point. Anyways, technically there were outs there, but I was like, I'm done with this. I didn't play those last 2 matches ideally, but there also were, I think, negative matchups as far as our win rate. If you wanted to play a Harbinger list that's, decent, I would play this one. I'm testing a Scream main instead of the what's it called? Third Pact. And I wanted to play more Waterlogged Teachings over sorry, while I'm looking at things, it's hard to say words as well. Waterlogged Teachings over Jawari. I felt like Jawari was the weakest one I had. And what am I holding? Flares. We'll put them over here. Let me just organize this really quick. I wish that it stayed the way you left it, but you know, MTGO is just such complex and powerful software that that's too difficult for it to figure out. So the idea here is to go up one on our untapped lands was the idea of Ambush. It's also sometimes castable. Some people I saw playing Witch, but I don't think you want to play Witch because then you can't get it off of Thunder Trap or Philagi. So you want one that hits. We have the 2 Harbingers Main. We have the 2 in the sideboard. And I'm going to link this one. I moved the packs to the sideboard again. You could play this main and keep 4 Scream sideboard. I also have the Floodmaw. I've seen some Leyline of Sanctities, as well as just, you know, there were a couple of those matchups. All these, like, weird decks that I'm seeing. It's like, well, it'd be nice to just be able to bounce a permanent. We got the 2 Commandeer, 2 Force, 2 Spell Pierce. And again, this is a nod to the fact that I feel like Spell Snare was, like, at its peak a couple weeks ago, and now it's going down. Part of that is I'm not seeing any energy decks. Part of that is the Dimir Frog list. Instead of playing, you know, Frog plus Counterspell plus Orcish Bowmasters plus some flutes in the sideboard, they're just playing Oculus and Thought Scour and Unearth. And so we need more. So this is twofold. One, it's a 1-drop that makes our Disrupting Shoals better. And then it's also a 1-mana answer to still a lot of the same cards that Mystical Dispute would hit. I still have 1 Mystical Dispute here. Spell Snare or Mystical Dispute, obviously, notably, it does not hit Frog, but with Frog, it's like I have the Unable to Screams, as well as, you know, Flare Denials and Shoals to hopefully hit that, and then that's the, you know, that's the goal there, and then Portable Hole's also an answer there, so that's it. Hope you have a great one. Join the Discord, comment any questions, point out all my misplays, what you think the best plays would be. Hope you have a great night.